We're back talking about more of our favourite games ever, this time from number 40 to 31.
Hi, I'm Julian and this is Libby and we are BoxedMeeples. So hopefully you've already seen our countdown of the best board games ever from 50 to 41. So we're going to do the next logical step. Let's have a look and see what our next selection of favourite board games ever are.
And my number 40 is a game that I think might be on your list higher up actually. And it is Red Rising.
Might be on my list.
Might be.
Enigmatically.
I haven't played Fantasy Realms, which I know that it sort of outwardly says that it is sort of partly derived from a love of, and you have, so I can't compare the two. I'll wait for you to do that when it's probably later in the list. But I really enjoy the sort of trying to get your best hand by playing someone down, getting the benefits from that, picking someone else up and really shuffling that around to sort of maximise your points in hand. And obviously you're trying to go up on the fleet track, you're trying to get the little red cubes.
Yes, collecting those.
And you're also trying to get influence as well. So you've got these three sort of goals that will be giving you the end game point.
That's what triggers the end.
Of what you've achieved. But at the end of the day, what you're trying to maximise is what points are going to be available in your hand. So I really enjoy that. I love the artwork of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It helps that we've read the books.
Yes.
We've read all of the books in which this game is based on, and hopefully they'll do some sort of expansion on the later books in the series. As you said, I can't say too much about it now because that would give me nothing to say later on. Because yes, I do enjoy Red Rising and it's going to be high on the list. But I definitely prefer it to Fantasy Realms. I know other people prefer that or Marvel Remix, which
I
is
would love to try Marvel Remix. It's another one of a similar styling, I know, and I think that one thematically I would certainly like more than Fantasy Realms, so it'd be interesting to compare the two. But at the moment, having played Red Rising, I really enjoy it, and it's a great, and again, easy to table game, you know, out the box. Done.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not going to talk about Red Rising. I'm going to talk about Tussie Mussie, which is my favourite button shy game. It's a Elizabeth Hargrave game and another winner. You know, she's best known for Wingspan, of course, but this is good. It's a game where you're just, you know, I cut, you choose, at its very core. That's pretty much a description of the game. You draw two cards, show one face up, the other face down. Your opponent chooses. Do they choose the one they know they need? Do they choose the one they know you need? Do they just randomly choose the blank one and wonder, why have you placed this face down? And that is why it's so great.
The mind games are amazing in this game.
The more you play it, the more you realise the rule isn't what the game is. It's all about trying to convince your opponent to take the one you want them to take and not take the one you need.
Yeah.
Works much better, as often is the case with these style of games. The limit of 18 cards hinders the enjoyment of this game. Get the expansions as well and just play it with everything. Works well at 2.
Yeah, I think I prefer it at 2 just because it becomes that one-on-one mind game over the sort of the group.
It's interesting in a group because then you start trying to read everyone else's cards and then the chance of you getting the set you need obviously reduces and you start having to be more adaptive to what you end up having rather than what you want to have. But with 2 particularly, you're then trying to memorise what's come already, and you end up being a bit Rain Man about it. And there's the chances of this being the orange I need are now reduced because we know there's 2 oranges have been played already in this game. We end up playing it a lot when we go out.
Yeah,
often.
It's a great one that we take out if we're popping out for a drink or something like that. It's small, that it fits on a little kind of pub table or bar or whatever. And
we've got quite a luxe version of it with thicker tiles. I'm going to get the way I do button shy games in the UK, because it's so expensive to post, is I buy the print and play files and then print them. So I'm going to print another really thin version just so we can take it out with easier. But I love it. I really do enjoy the.
Yeah.
It's my favourite kind of card-based dueling game. Not that there's a great deal to choose from, but by far that is my favourite. And in fact, it's going to have a prominence in our wedding, so that'll be fun.
That will be
to ice break, on tables in our wedding. So yeah, that's how much I enjoy Tussie Mussie. So 39 is for me Unfathomable. Now, should this be Battlestar Galactica? Thematically, yes, it should be. I prefer the theme of Battlestar Galactica much more than I do Unfathomable. But I prefer Unfathomable because it hits the ground running. It doesn't have that slight lag at the beginning where Battlestar does. And there's also a few more mechanics towards the end of the game where suddenly someone could come out of the woodwork and just throw a big spanner in the works. But these kind of games, social deduction games, aren't usually my favourite kind of games, particularly games that are just focused solely on that. But there's other stuff that goes on in Unfathomable / Battlestar Galactica, if you'd like, that I do really enjoy. I do like trying to read what everyone's doing, and knowing there is a traitor amongst us is fun. But I do understand the criticism of it that other people have levelled. With all these kind of games, all these social deduction games, people naturally, because of their personality and the way they played historically, end up just falling into a certain thing, and it's very tricky with a same group of people not to just assume that they are going to be the traitors amongst us, and trying to escape that is tricky, and that has to, in the past, been to my detriment, because people just assume I was a traitor before, so I was a traitor again. I've just been left in the brig for half the game. It's like, well, this is less fun now. But when it works really well.
Yeah.
And it is these kind of games that do create the memories, the stories of that moment of glee you get when you reveal all along you were the traitor and no one suspected you. You don't really get in other situations in other kind of games. So just that moment alone was like, boom, you didn't suspect me, but you should have done. Are what makes me enjoy Unfathomable. So that's next on my list.
My 39 is Near and Far.
Oh, okay.
I do love a lot of the Red Raven games. I love that sort of world building, that artwork that goes along with them. And this one's fun to go out and explore and hear different stories along the way. And you're trying to manage how much exploration you do before you need to sort of come back and resettle all your stuff, get all your bits and bobs together again before you go out adventuring again and hear some more stories. And we had a great fun playing that game, and I'm excited for us to start like a full campaign of it from our copy. I think that will be great. It's one that I definitely want to delve into more. We played Sleeping Gods at the beginning of last year, which you might hear more about later, who knows. And so it'd be nice maybe to sort of really sit down and play like a full lot of this game rather than just the odd game here and there, which is what has happened so far, to sort of really get into all of that story thread of it and things like that. But I really love how quite a lot of the Red Raven games actually, but this is the one that I've sort of put on here, do really incorporate the sort of narrative element with the gameplay in a really nice way. I've
only ever played this and Sleeping Gods, so I don't feel as in tune to it, the series, as you are. But I do think, to be honest, I can't imagine not liking a Red Raven game.
But we did play Islebound recently.
We played Islebound, yes,
as well.
That was also fun.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I've never had a bad experience with them.
No.
So I'm keen to play more of that universe and see how it pans out. Partly because I love Sleeping Gods so very much.
So my 38 is Burano. And this is an interesting game. You're building up this coloured pyramid at the beginning, and depending on the colours that you choose to build on there, is going to depend on what you're actually going to be able to do and place out onto the board. So you really have to think ahead of what colour bricks you're going to need in your pyramid to actually activate things. And you have other options. You can go and sort of do some lace making, or you can go and do some sailing around and fishing around the edges of the island. Obviously it's based on the Italian island of lace making, Burano, and of fishing fortune, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But you're putting out these little roofs onto the buildings and things, and just a bit different. It's lovely and colourful, and yeah, as I said, that pyramid element of it really adds something new and different for me to the game, which it's another one we're talking about, and I thinking, oh gosh, it's been a while since we played it. I really want to get it back to the table again.
It looks great on the table, and obviously the coloured cubes end up mirroring the real life Burano with its colourful buildings. But often, just having that one little tweak, that new mechanic, makes the game feel very different. It's a worker placement game, so there's other ones that we play, but just having that that new thing elevates it. And it's interesting because I got this based on feedback from you guys, really. I asked on BGG, which game should I get you? And listed some of your favourites, and this came up. This was suggested. So that's why I'd never heard of it. It's not a particularly well-known game, I don't think. And it should be. It's a good one.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. Yeah, and it forces you to think ahead, which is interesting. Some you can really sort of gung-ho yourself through a game, whereas this one, you've got to kind of think about the planning steps, because you're sort of taking the cubes from the pyramid to the sort of prep area, and then you'll be able to use them. So you've got to manage that in a way that's going to be helpful to you.
Yeah.
I really like it.
Well, if the core mechanic of that is a pyramid, here's another game with a pyramid. Teotihuacan, City of the Gods.
Great game.
Not really a worker placement, it's a track you're moving around, dice placement.
Nice.
And of those style of games, it's my favourite. In earlier videos I said I wasn't a fan of Tolkien, but I love this one. It's bizarrely quick to play. It's a very fast game, really, when you think about all the things that are going on. But I love just building the pyramid. I like these style of games where you're not limited to one option, where your game's not entirely ruined because someone's been to where you want to go. There's always options in this. And, of course there's optimal moves, but if that's not available to you, there's other options you can do, other moves you can do. And it never really stalls in the way other games do, where it's like, well, I've got to waste a turn now, there's nothing I can do. That's what's really great about this. We've got, every expansion, I think, or nearly, a lot of expansions for it. But as you just said about Burano, it's a game, when I was doing this list, I was like, I really want to play that more. We did play it last year, but I'm keen to play it more, because I think there's a lot of things going on in that game that you learn from experience, and you learn from knowing the game, knowing the kind of genetics of the game.
I won't say too much. Who knows why?
Who knows? So my 37 is a game that's been on our shelves for absolutely ages, and I knew I'd love it. And you got it as a bargain at the UK Games Expo. It's Rising Sun. So the reason we haven't got this is because it doesn't work at 2, and that's a shame. There's kind of house rules you can do to make it work, but having played it now, I understand why that's not ideal. But this is, there's other games in Series Unk that we have played. I enjoyed this way more. It could be because of the theme, which I love, that kind of feudal Japan theme, or it could just be because it's a great game. I love, in the last video we talked about Francis Drake having that kind of 2-phase element to it, and you do get that in this game as well, where you are building up your forces on the map, potentially setting yourselves up for combat, which then happens as you start taking control of of different areas to then get the victory points. And then there's lots of things you do need to think about, because I approached it with a similar way to the Loki strategy, where I thought, I'm just going to kill all my people and be honourable. Why not? And it worked. It worked for half the game. It worked, on paper. If we didn't have a scoring, end game scoring, winner. But unfortunately, that's more than half the points, and loser. But it's a game that on the surface looks really complicated, but wasn't. Once you get the hang of what's going on.
It was quite flowing in its mechanisms. I think I won't speak too much about it either.
But I can see it's going higher. The more I play it, the more it's going to go higher.
A few of my friends do own it as well, and I know that they really like it. So fingers crossed, we would be able to sort of get some more groups together. And I know it is easier once everyone already knows the rules to sort of plan an evening for a game, especially of that type. So, fingers crossed we'll get to play a lot more, and I could definitely see it. I mean, I won't mention where it's going to be on my list, but I could definitely see it going up.
It's going to be a climber over the years.
Yeah, I think so. So my 37 is Flamecraft, which you have already spoken
talked about in the last video.
And it is one that is newer into the collection, so we haven't had loads and loads of plays. So I've tried to be sort of somewhat measured.
It's higher than I thought it was going to be for you.
Yeah, I struggle with games that when they are new and we've played a few times, but you want to know what longevity a game's going to have in terms of repeated play sometimes when you're trying to put them on the list. But then sometimes you think, well, they've wowed you so much, you know that it's going to be sort of one of those comfort games that you always come back to, that I didn't think that I could really leave it off the list. So and I've put it here because it fluttered around in different areas, if I'm honest, about where I wanted to put it, particularly in terms of how do you measure it against some others that are very different styles, because you want to bring this out for a very different occasion than you want to bring out Rising Sun, for example,
for the right group of people.
The
right kind of experience of playing board games, or younger players, you wouldn't show Rising Sun because they wouldn't enjoy it. But you can have a really comparable fun experience when playing a game that's perfect for the people you have at that moment. So Flamecraft is a great example of that. Yeah,
and I really enjoyed our plays. I mean, as I've said on other videos, the artwork on here is incredible. It just looks so beautiful, and all of these little shops are all sort of fine details and fun little play on words with what they are and things like that. Like there's a Draco Bell instead of a Taco Bell, and all sorts of things like that. And it's just great to try sort of manage your resources, right, to sort of work out who's going for what, and as you play, the world expands, and I really love how you're sort of waiting to see what's the next shop going to be that's going to come out, and one shop might get sort of particularly great to go to, and you're sort of vying over the timing of who's going there when, because you don't want to have to pay an extra resource to your opponent and things like that. But just been really, really enjoying it. It's a lovely, wholesome game, and very, very cute dragons. My 36 is a Star Wars game, and this one is Outer Rim, and it does have that pick up and deliver element to it. You're sort of flying through the galaxy, trying to get credits, trying to deliver different characters to different places and get different points for those, upgrading your ships and seeing if you can get yourself the Millennium Falcon is always the goal. And just quite fun to feel like you're in that sort of world of Star Wars. You have all those missions to complete and sort of trying to work out where your reputation is going to be with, say, the Hutts or whatever, and who's going to be after you or not. I enjoy the world of Star Wars, and I think this is it's not my favourite Star Wars game, as you'll learn later on, but it's a great version of something that's, when you're wanting, some of the others that I prefer are sort of bigger, longer, deeper games, and so if you're wanting to sort of get into that Star Wars galaxy world, then this is a great one for a sort of a shorter game or an easier play, perhaps. Not going to say anything about it. Oh, interesting. Instead, I'm going to talk about Takenoko, which I think scratches the same itch as Flamecraft. Adorably cute. Just love feeding that panda the bamboo. He just wants to eat bamboo. Yeah, he's so cute. But the gardener, what a day he's having. He just wants to make a lovely garden. I really like Takenoko. As just said for Flamecraft, the right kind of people, the
the right situation, it's a great game. Looks great on the table. It's, quite easy to explain, accessible for younger audiences, particularly if you perhaps remove the irrigation, which can fox them a little bit. But yeah, it's the right level of, this looks simple to play, but there's some complexity going on that means you're not just playing a very light game. There's lots of tactics that go around in almost to the point of, where do I put the panda that's going to annoy you? How do I muck up your plans with my adorable hungry panda? But yeah, it just holds a soft kind of warm place in my heart. I just enjoy playing Takenoko, and it's not a game I ever say no to playing.
I mean, we've been able to take it to the park before.
We have played it in the park.
And I think because of that, it's got summery vibes.
It does.
Maybe partly because of the colour, or I don't know. But yeah, I feel like the garden making and things like that. It makes me feel like a summery game.
Yeah.
Or spring, maybe.
Love that hungry panda. So my 35 is Welcome to New Las Vegas. Now, I'd never played any Welcome to games before last year. And in fact, if you go back to an earlier video where we talk about someone else's favourite 22 board games of all time, they mentioned it in that, and we were like, well, could be good. Who knows? You've not played it. Well, now we have, and yes, they are good. For me, I don't think I could go back to Welcome to. We played that online since, because there's not as much going on as in New Las Vegas. Obviously, I love the theme of Las Vegas. I haven't gone there recently, so it does feel like, yes, you are developing kind of Vegas, but yeah, I can see the appeals of these drawing rights. It's not really rolling rights, it's more draw a card, work out where to put it, best use of your resources, and what goals you're going to achieve by placing certain things in certain areas. It's a genre that's relatively new to me. We've played some other roll and rights or draw and rights games, but this seems to have everything I'd want from that kind of game. Not a big fan of the initial gambling you do, where you choose whether you're going to, you fold over the corner and you do the loan, because then something that can rob you of a victory that you are deserving, just from a random choice that was made before anyone done anything with the game. But beyond that, yeah, Welcome to New Las Vegas is by far my favourite Welcome to game of the ones I played. And
I would like to try the Moon one out.
People say the Moon one is good. So.
Yeah, I haven't played that one, but I have played Las Vegas quite a bit on BGA, and we have a copy here that we play between us as well. So yeah, I have been enjoying that one. It hasn't made my list as yet, but I do really enjoy it. It's fun. My 35 is a classic now. I think it's gotten into so many households around the world, and it is Wingspan.
Right.
We've had some great times playing Wingspan. Just the artwork is lovely in it. It really fits that idea of the sort of nature of it, reserves for the birds, and that puzzle of where you're putting the bird, whether you're going to focus on your end round goals or not, which sometimes Julian forgets about.
It's something I never do. Probably why I win very rarely. But
yeah, it's a lovely, relaxing game, mostly, unless you're getting all the hawks to kill everything.
Yeah, I've tried. We talked about it in the past. I couldn't ever wing Wingspan. I was terrible at it. We played it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think at one point we got to the stage where we were 19 wins to 1.
Yeah. I was just trying crazy things. I did try the raptor strategy, as I think it's known. Try and kill as many birds and
tuck them all underneath. Yeah,
that didn't work.
I'd be interested to. I'd like to play the Asia expansion. Yes. We have all the other expansions for it, and I do enjoy the addition of the different sort of end of game, all those different scoring bits and bobs that are going on with some of those bits and things.
I'm keen to see how it's tailored more towards 2 players, which is how we play it a lot.
Yeah, because we play it, I think mostly we play the 2 of us for the main one, so it'd be interesting to see that comparison to one that's specifically made for 2 versus the other.
But I'll talk about Wingspan
a little later.
Later on. Gosh. So my 34 is the first entry of a tiny epic game.
Oh.
And it was, 2 years ago, this was number 14 on my list.
Okay.
It wasn't in the last year because we didn't do Beyond 20, so we're doing a longer list this year, but probably would have been. Now it's 34. So Tiny Epic Galaxies is a brilliant game. And I think people are put off by the tiny epicness of it. It's strange that seems to alienate people, and they think that's not a proper game. It's too small. There's nothing to it. But Tiny Epic Galaxies is...
Well, we have the ultra tiny.
We got an even smaller version of it. Yeah, we still enjoy it. It's a clever game of, following. Really, that's the clever mechanic in it. When someone else does something you want to do, spend some culture and you can do the same thing. And that's really fun. But yeah, ultimately it's almost a kind of tableau builder, or you're building up, your benefits. You're working out whether you want to take the benefit of the planet or score the points meant and remove it from the game. Leap ahead of someone and remove something they're aiming to do, and lots of things go on in it. And it might have a tiny box, an even smaller box for our copy, but it's a clever game. And you just think, well, if that was in a bigger box, more people would enjoy it more. I don't know why people don't love Tiny Epic games as much as I do. But yeah, Tiny Epic Galaxies, it's a really good game.
Yeah, I like this one.
That's why it's on my list.
And mine is First Rat. Now, we sort of fell in love with this game at the UK Games Expo back in June, immediately bought a copy and have played it quite a lot with loads of different groups of friends, and everyone's loved it. And the theme, obviously adorable. Who doesn't want to play a game about rats who thinks that the moon is made of cheese and they need to get there in order to eat the moon, and then where are they going to live and how are they going to get there?
Get back?
Yeah,
flawed.
It is slightly flawed thinking, but not a flawed game. There's almost no luck in this game, which I absolutely love. Even though it's still very accessible to new players, it's easy to teach, but you have a lot of options, and your decisions are all based around partly where your opponents have chosen to go or not, as to whether you want to pay them some cheese or not. I mean, you have cheese, even though you want to go to get the cheese.
They have a lot of cheese. It's their currency.
Cheese, yeah. But you can go round the borough and you can get points that way. You can collect more cheese and you can get points that way. You can go and do the whole light bulb track and get extra things going on there, or you can just focus on getting yourself a spacesuit and getting into a rocket to go to the moon. And so there's lots of different strategies to go with that. The theming of it is great, and as I say, I really appreciate the sort of the luck element isn't huge on a game that you would consider might be of that sort of level, that sort of theming and things. Whether you choose to sort of go back and start again at the beginning, which you can do at certain points, you can just sort of come back around and gather everything up again, or you just want to shoot to the top, a lot of fun. I've loved this game.
I would love to interject more, but I'll be talking about it very, very soon.
Oh, very soon. Interesting.
Well, my 33 is a game that I find impossible to talk about without remembering the experience. It's a game we haven't played for a while, Star Wars Imperial Assault.
Oh, nice.
And we played it a lot during lockdown because we had a friend who ran the entire campaign over Zoom. And it was such a great thing to be doing at that point. There's all sorts of things wrong with the world, but that would be one thing I look forward to. Work was difficult at that time. We weren't able to see friends and family like everyone. So this was a nice escape from that. And it just was the right game at the right time, and that will always have a special place in my heart for that reason.
Yeah.
But the game itself is great. It's such a good dungeon crawler. Particularly when you haven't got to be, running it and setting up the complicated maps and playing as the Empire, because they're just not as much fun as playing as the Rebels. And what was brilliant about that, and it could have been due to the games master, the way he was running it, was it just felt cinematic. Mm-hmm. It felt like we were engaged in a proper Star Wars storyline. We grew attached to our characters. My sniper hamster-like character was terrible. he couldn't shoot a barn door in a barn, and there's entire sections of the game where I literally just had to make a shot and I couldn't do it because he was rubbish. But he evolved as the games went on.
He did, and you relied on my Wookiee.
Good old Wookiee. And the campaign just kept on going and going because we were enjoying it so much. Probably outstayed, I'm not going to say outstayed its welcome, but we probably played it too long, because then the last battle I've read on BGG against Darth Vader, or like a transmission of Darth Vader, was not as big a challenge as it should have been.
Oh, we were fully powered up. Everyone was at their absolute max in terms of cards and things like that. And so maybe that's down to brilliant gameplay.
It could be
previously, but I think we did do a couple of extra
we're doing all the side quests
to drag things out a bit because we were enjoying it so much. So I think maybe that sort of did somewhat
but even the
tailor.
end fight was just cinematic. It was climactic.
It was.
But there's some brilliant sections where we were saving Han Solo, that, you know, thinking back on it, maybe because I painted such a big mental picture in my mind as we were playing it, it's difficult to imagine that these didn't happen in a film or in a TV series because they just felt so exciting. And like I said, right game at the right time, and for that I'm forever thankful to, you know, our friend who ran it all, and just to be able to experience that game. It was a good one. Yeah,
same. Well, I haven't staged done, but you know, I'll try and think of something else to say.
Yeah.
My 33 is a game that you have already spoken about, that we've just recently been utterly wowed by, and it's Rising Sun. And now I couldn't not put this on the list. I wasn't really sure what number to go for. I feel like with more and more plays it's going to go higher and higher and higher. But I felt like this, I sort of need to be measured because we haven't played it much yet. But it couldn't not be there because we had a fantastic experience of that. And as you mentioned previously, it wasn't actually that difficult to get to grips with in terms of the rulings and things like that. We fumbled a couple of bits, so we'll rectify that.
First time play.
Yeah. But the monsters are incredible. In fact, I ended up getting like the path of the monsters or something, so I could escalate all my points at the end for the number of monsters that I had, which was great.
It looks so good on the table.
Yeah, it looks amazing on the table. In fact, I'd love to paint those monsters. That would be incredible. And yes, it has that sort of area control element, but it has a lot of other things to think about as well, which is what I appreciate in a game, when I quite like area control, but not purely only. And the card element helped an awful lot. We were getting different bonuses, different things between us, and when you choose to take different actions, that whole allying and whether you get to have the bonus or not, and if you've been left out of having an ally for that round, particularly we were playing as a three, then watching everyone else being able to take all these great benefits, and you're just sat there going,
why does no one like me?
No friends, can't do anything good. Which sounds like it would be bad, but in actual fact it then pushes you to play some different types of actions, which really mixes things up and keeps things flowing in terms of what also, you're getting to do. Yeah,
in future turns you've got less of a board presence, so people would be keen to ally with you because you know they can't battle each other because that would break the alliance. Be interested to see how it does play with 4 when you've got 2 different alliances going on each round, and see, you know, whether it's worth just sticking with one player, whether it's worth mixing that up as you play. Keen to see how that plays out.
Yeah, really, really enjoyed it. The minis are obviously incredible.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to get it to the table again. You've said so many lovely things about it already in the previous one, but incredible game. Super excited to play this one more, and I am sure it's going to be a lot higher on the list come next year.
Yeah, if you want to look back over the point where you bought it, so you got this at the UK Games Expo, and you can see how giddy Libby is at that point because she got such a great bargain on it.
It's a game that I've wanted for a long time, so super excited for that. So my my 32 is another game that has an element of area control, but also has something else going on. In fact, there's a card draft system in this one as well, and this is Inish.
Right.
And I really enjoyed the world that was brought up in that one. That sort of Irish sort of theming, the characters and things. It had a great play. And at the time we'd played Cry Havoc, we owned that one, and we don't actually own Inish because we felt like they had a similar elements, and would we put one over the other? But so we didn't get Inish because we already owned the other one. But I felt like
if they're both there in a shop, you'd have bought Inish. Yeah,
and I have toyed with the idea of getting that since. But I just really enjoyed that sort of idea of the area control, and you're using the cards to manipulate the situation, keeping a good eye on where everyone else is going and how things are going. We played, I think, I don't know if there's 4 or 5. Four of us.
So it's a table full of people.
Yeah, and so the board was pretty rammed in certain times in some of the areas, and you're kind of having to duke it out over. All of a sudden your sort of plans to have dominated that area and get your points that you were planning on and things are suddenly spoiled as someone else trumps in and takes over. Yeah. And you're thinking, why have you done that?
It's such a clever board though, because you can have it in different orientations, and the way it slots together means future players will be different.
Yeah, really enjoyed that game.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too, and I enjoyed Cry Havoc.
Yeah,
and that would have been on my list. But we haven't played it for so long that I've kind of forgotten how much I do enjoy it. So it felt a bit disingenuous, really, to put it on there, knowing I once really enjoyed playing it. Be interesting to play it now after playing Inish and see if it's as good as I remember.
Yeah, and I think I like the art style of Inish more than Cry Havoc, whereas you probably.
I think Cry Havoc looks brilliant, and I love the theme of it all, and the Starship Troopers vibes you get from playing that. So I think I probably do prefer thematically Cry Havoc more. But yeah, I'm keen to play that again. But yeah, my 32 is a game you just talked about, and you've said all the good things.
Oh no!
So First Rat.
Oh.
First Rat. What more can I really say about it? You said everything that I love about it. It was. Not often do you play a game and go, want that, and we did. And part of the reason I felt the need to get this copy before it sold out. And interestingly, I keep hearing about people saying we can't get hold of this game. I didn't realise we were so lucky to have got it when we did. But I was keen to get it because I knew we'd play it so often with so many people. It's such a quick game to play, but does feel like a game. It's not just a short, silly filler game. It's people request it. Can you bring that rat game next time? Because they enjoy playing it too. And I do love the idea. The whole theme of these mad rats wanting to build a bottle-powered, soda-powered bottle that gets to the moon, and you can be crafty and just steal from a frog, and or do you play more? I'm going to go up the tracks and you're going to make these all ratronauts, I guess they're called. And the rules can get a bit heavier. You can have the super rat, that's in there, just to keep it mixed up if you've played it already and everyone's familiar with it. But it's just a good, solid game. It's not obviously the best game ever, but it's a great game. It's a well-made, well thought out, almost flawless for what it's trying to be. It's just exactly as you want it to be, and you get that experience as you play it, and it's always fun.
And it's an all-rounder. Yeah.
Always a good time had by all, and if you lose, you can't just say it's because I rolled 1 every time. You've lost because you weren't playing it as well as someone else, and you're going to play it better next time because it's often coming out.
Oh, I love it. It's great.
So, yay for First Rat. So 31, my last run in this run of games, is a game you've talked about already.
Oh gosh.
So
that keeps happening.
We have similar. It's interesting how these kind of play out, because obviously we play the bulk of our games together, but we have similar but different taste we often like the same games, but one will like it more than the other, and often we know what that's going to be before we play the game. This is more of a you game, this is more of a me game. And it's Star Wars Outer Rim. I as you said, I love the Star Wars universe. I'm still sore about the fact that you can't play the Mandalorian in it, because that's the wrong time period. Bring out him. But yeah, it's a quicker game to play than a lot of the other Star Wars games. I've talked about Imperial Assault, obviously. That's a huge game. That you have to invest a lot of time in it. This one you can dip into. I much prefer it to Firefly, which is a game you talked about in an earlier video. Although it's still similar, I suppose.
But they're both sort of pick up deliver
style games.
Elements, yeah.
But this is much faster to get through. You're zooming around a galaxy. I love the idea that occasionally you're given a mission, a Chewbacca mission, and Chewbacca's on your opponent's, is in their crew, so that's going to be a fight. It's not a case, you do have those, not often, but you do have those interaction with other players going on. I've said in the past about Zia, how it felt like a populated galaxy, and with all the little ships flying around, heading towards you inevitably. That also is the case here. It feels like a busy universe, and I love the idea that it's a Star Wars game that isn't Jedis, and these are just smugglers that are operating on the fringes of the galaxy. It's just stealing stuff or buying stuff to then sell at a profit. And playing as Landau's great. That rogue. So yeah, it's you've said all the good things about it already.
I like that Han starts with a bad reputation with the Hutts, but then Boba Fett starts with great reputation with the Hutts. Little things like that are great.
You don't need to know the universe, but if you do, there's little touches that I appreciate it. There's very few Star Wars. Well, I said that there's some terrible Star Wars games, but generally, if you want a quick entry into a series we love, you don't have to build that world, because that world exists, and you just get to participate in it, and that's always fun with Star Wars. Outer Rim is my 31st favourite game of all time.
My 31, and the last of this particular list, is a game that I think that we'll find higher on your list, actually, and it's Tapestry. I love
high on my list.
I love going up the different tracks. The first game we ever played of it, I went straight into space. I've been trying to do the same every time we play since then, because it was just fun getting in a rocket and going up. And yes, sort of thematically, it's a little bit wonky in that you can, do some crazy sciencey things without even know how to write or something like that.
Go to space and you've not invented a screw. Yeah, it's an achievement, really.
But I don't think that's the point of it. It's interesting, the sort of more you play, the more you sort of gravitate towards your favourite tracks a little bit, or and the more different civilizations you use, that's push you to play differently. So I love the variety that they bring. All of those little miniatures that you're putting on
it looks
your map
amazing.
Look great. And that is a fun little sort of side puzzle to be trying to get an extra resource by filling up the little gaps and do different things by getting lines and all of that kind of stuff going on. But at the end of the day, you're racing the others to what track you're going to go up so that you can get those good buildings first.
I think you've said in the past it doesn't really feel like a civilization game.
No.
It is a track game. It is a race game.
And there's some area control situation if you want to partake in that and expand. And to be fair, you probably might want to in order to get enough points to win.
Because they get the bonuses straight away.
You don't have to do that, like a huge amount in the middle with the territory and the conquering and stuff, if that isn't compatible with what you've chosen to do in that game. There are other options for you, and it does really keep it variable with the cards that you're playing and which ones you're choosing to move up, as to what benefits they're giving you when you have the opportunity to do so.
It's a lot of things to juggle in Tapestry, and what's fun, and why I do say it's more of a race game than a civilization game, is last time I played it I was competing on the same track. But obviously, if you're first one to go up there, you're getting the better benefits, you're getting the buildings. And then I felt like I can't take my foot off the pedal on this track because someone's literally a square behind. I need to stay ahead of them. You don't get that in other civilization games, but that's not the point.
No.
It's an abstracted version of that, and I think, as you said, it's going to be much higher on my list, because I do enjoy it. I
thought so. But yeah, it's a game I definitely really, really enjoy, and I think, Stonemaier as a whole produce amazing games, and this isn't the first one on my list, and it won't be the last.
I suspect, between us, we're going to cover a lot of the back catalogue for Stonemaier games.
Yeah. But we hope that you have enjoyed this latest lot of 10, our 40 to 31. Of course, we've got more to come. So if you want to see the 30 to 21, then do click the bell for notifications and subscribe if you haven't already to the channel. That would be fantastic.
Yes, don't get angry at us in the comments. But we haven't mentioned your favourite game. It could have been last batch of videos. It could be in a future video. But do let us.
Maybe we haven't played it, so let us know.
Yeah, let us know which games. If we've enjoyed one, please feel free to suggest games that we would like if we do enjoy a particular game.
Yes.
But you'll see us next when we're talking about the next batch of our favourite games ever. Thank you. Thanks so much for watching.